Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is gonna be interesting. So let's jump in.
Chapter 5 Labor and Birth The Reality Check. It's time. You're in labor as a man. Let's talk about what this actually means. Labor is not quick. It's not easy. For first time births, labor averages 12 to 18 hours. But it can be longer, much longer. Contractions start. At first, they're manageable, uncomfortable, but bearable. You time them. They're getting closer together, more intense. You go to the hospital, you're in active labor now. The pain is increasing. It comes in waves, building, peaking, releasing, then building again and again and again, every few minutes for hours. Your body is trying to push a human being out of an opening that is not designed for this. The pain is described by many as the worst they've ever experienced. Some compare it to breaking multiple bones simultaneously. Others say no comparison does it justice. You have options for pain management. Epidural, a needle in your spine that numbs you from the waist down. It helps, but not everyone can have one. Some labor progresses too quickly. Some bodies don't respond. Some people choose not to for various reasons. If you don't have pain management, you experience every sensation. The ring of fire, that's what they call it when the baby crowns. The burning, tearing sensation. Yes, tearing. Most people tear during vaginal birth. Some tears are minor, some require stitches, some are severe. And if vaginal birth isn't possible, cesarean section, major abdominal surgery. They cut through multiple layers, skin, fat, muscle, uterus. They remove the baby. Then they stitch you back up, layer by layer. Recovery from cesarean is weeks of limited mobility, pain, risk of infection, permanent scarring. But here's what many men don't realize. Birth doesn't end the physical experience. It begins a new phase. Postpartum recovery. Your body is wrecked. You're bleeding heavily for weeks. You're in pain. If you tore or had surgery, you can barely move. Sitting hurts. Standing hurts. Everything hurts. You're not sleeping. The baby needs to eat every 2 to 3 hours, around the clock. You're exhausted beyond anything you've ever experienced. Your hormones crash, massively. This can lead to postpartum depression, serious clinical depression that affects up to 15% of people who give birth, and it's often not taken seriously enough. If men experience this, would postpartum care improve? Would mental health support be better? Would paternity leave be longer? Almost certainly yes. Because the suffering would be visible, immediate, and affecting people, society tends to prioritize. And that's the uncomfortable truth. Not that men deserve better care, but that everyone deserves the level of care that would likely exist if men could get pregnant. Chapter 6, Postpartum, Identity and Mental Health. The baby is here. You've given birth. As a man. Now what? Let's talk about something rarely discussed. How pregnancy and birth change your sense of identity. For women, this is already complex. Society has conflicting messages. You're supposed to be a mother, but also maintain your pre-baby body. You're supposed to be nurturing, but also remain professionally ambitious. You're supposed to sacrifice everything, but also not lose yourself. For men, this would be entirely new territory. Masculine identity is often tied to physical strength, emotional control, professional achievement. Pregnancy challenges all of these. Your body weakened by pregnancy, your emotions uncontrollable due to hormones, your career interrupted by parental leave. How does this fit into traditional masculine identity? It doesn't. This would force a massive cultural reckoning with what masculinity means. Can you be a real man if you've given birth? If you've been vulnerable? If you've needed help? For progressive thinkers, the answer is obvious. Of course. Masculinity should be flexible enough to include all human experiences. But for traditional thinkers, this creates cognitive dissonance. The very idea of male pregnancy challenges fundamental beliefs about gender roles, strength, and social order. And this is where the mental health crisis would emerge. Men already struggle with mental health stigma. They're told to be strong, not to cry, to handle things alone. Now add postpartum depression on top of that. Postpartum depression is brutal. It's not just sadness, it's hopelessness, inability to feel joy, intrusive thoughts. For some, suicidal ideation. It's a serious medical condition requiring treatment. Currently, many new mothers suffer in silence because they feel they're supposed to be happy. They're supposed to be glowing with maternal joy. Admitting they're depressed feels like failure. If men experience this, two things would likely happen. First, postpartum depression would finally be taken seriously as the medical emergency it is. Research funding would increase, treatment options would improve, screening would be standard. Second, mental health stigma for men might actually decrease, because postpartum depression would demonstrate that mental health struggles aren't weakness, they're biological, chemical, real. This could be one of the few positive outcomes of male pregnancy. A cultural shift in how we view male mental health and vulnerability. But it would come at a cost. Men would have to experience the suffering firsthand. They couldn't dismiss it as hormonal or emotional. They'd know it's real because they'd feel it. Chapter 7, Society and Culture, the Long-Term Changes. Let's zoom out. If men could get pregnant, how would society change long-term? Workplace culture. The entire structure of work would shift. The expectation of constant availability would disappear. The 60-hour work week would become unsustainable. Flexible schedules would be standard, not perks. Why? Because if CEOs, executives, and managers could get pregnant, they'd demand these accommodations for themselves. And what powerful men demand, society provides. Gender roles. Traditional gender roles would collapse. If both parents could carry a child, the division of labor would have to be negotiated, not assumed. Who stays home? Who works? Who sacrifices career advancement? These conversations already happen, but they'd be forced to happen more equitably, because neither partner could claim biology as destiny. Relationship dynamics. The power dynamic in relationships would fundamentally shift. Currently, women bear 100% of the physical burden of pregnancy. This creates an inherent inequality. If men could share that burden, relationships could be more balanced. But it would also create new conflicts. If one partner refused to ever get pregnant, that would be a source of resentment. The conversation of reproductive labor would become explicit, not implicit. Medical research. Pregnancy and childbirth would receive Manhattan Project-level research funding. We'd have better pain management, better outcomes, better understanding of pregnancy complications. Why? Because when something affects everyone, it gets resources. Political landscape. Reproductive rights would likely be less controversial, not because the ethical questions would disappear, but because they'd be seen as affecting everyone, not just one gender. Bodily autonomy would be understood more deeply. The experience of carrying an unwanted pregnancy would be universally understood as traumatic, not abstract. Cultural values. Society would have to confront its discomfort with male vulnerability, with male bodies in feminine roles, with men needing help, care, and support. This would either break down rigid gender norms, creating a more flexible, accepting society, or it would create massive backlash, with people clinging even harder to traditional roles. Which would win? Probably both. Society would split even further. Some would embrace the change. Others would fight it desperately. Conclusion, the real question. So what if men could get pregnant? The world would change dramatically. Some changes would be positive. Better healthcare, better workplace policies, better understanding of reproductive struggles. Some changes would be complicated. Relationship dynamics would shift, gender roles would be challenged, cultural conflicts would intensify. But here's the real question this thought experiment forces us to ask. Why should it take men experiencing something firsthand for society to care about it? Why aren't pregnancy complications taken seriously now? Why isn't maternal health care prioritized now? Why isn't paid leave standard now? The answer is uncomfortable. It suggests that society values certain experiences and certain people more than others. Men getting pregnant would likely solve many pregnancy-related problems. Not because the problems would be different, but because the people experiencing them would be valued differently. And that's the truth we need to confront. We shouldn't need men to experience pregnancy to make pregnancy safer, healthcare better, and reproductive rights clearer. We should care about these issues because they affect human beings who deserve dignity, safety, and autonomy. So the real takeaway isn't, what if men got pregnant? It's, why aren't we treating pregnancy-related issues with urgency now? Because the people who get pregnant now, primarily women, deserve the same level of care, respect, and policy attention that would likely exist if men could get pregnant. That's the uncomfortable truth. That's the conversation we need to have. That's the change we need to make. Not in a hypothetical future where men get pregnant, but right now, in the world we actually live in. What do you think? Would men getting pregnant change society? Would it expose biases we don't want to admit exist? Or am I wrong? Let me know in the comments. And if this made you think differently, even for a moment, share it with someone who needs to see this.
Thank you so much for watching till the end. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I'll catch you in the next one. See you.